I bet you're wondering why I'm wearing a cape. It's because I'm a hero. It is a little overwhelming for me to be here today because the last time I was in this room and on this stage, I was sitting at the edge of it crying that I thought the entire world was ending because summer camp was over. I don't know if any of you have been to summer camp, but for me it was an absolutely, utterly life-changing experience and really is the reason why I'm standing here today. I work at Oberlin College, which is the school that I went to and I now work at. I've been working there for almost 5 years, and it's been really interesting. There's a song from my camp years that kind of reflect how I feel about communications now. It's the end of the world as we know it. For every single communication form that becomes a new thing, we all get really scared that it's going to make all the other past ones obsolete and that the future is going to continue looking like this one right now. As a social media manager, this is what I feel like every single day. I would say that this moment where everyone starts freaking out that, oh my goodness, it's the end of the world, but also maybe it might make our world better, is really the perfect time for heroes. So today, I'm going to share a little bit of my own hero journey and then talk about where my journey might be heading. So, like I said, I went to camp here at Western. I went to the summer camp for academically talented students for 2 years, and I went to the verbally and mathematically precocious youth camp for 4 years. These experiences absolutely defined who I was. I found the first group of people that were totally okay with being weird and were really proud of it. And it made me feel like I could be weird and it would be totally fine. I also learned about some of the things that I actually studied in college for the first time here, and it was that I really loved to write and that movies were the coolest way to tell a story. I became a cinema major at Oberlin. But when camp ended, like I said, I was sitting at the edge of the stage thinking my world is over, I am never gonna have anything like this ever again. And what occurred is kind of the discovery that the internet could be the community that I was looking for all the time. When I was at camp, I spent 49 weeks of the year thinking about the 3 weeks that I would be at camp. But when I finished camp, I realized I was never going to have it. So we decided, a group of friends and I, to kind of recreate that community online. So I joined my first, I got my first AOL screen name so I could chat with people. I joined my first forum, and I also started my first blog on LiveJournal. Please do not try and find this, it's incredibly embarrassing, but I'm going to show it to you anyways because that's something that heroes do. They show that where they started. So my blog was, for the most part, me sharing my angsty high school experiences, some poetry, and later on in my high school career, I started writing about what my college process was like. I applied to a lot of schools. The only one I really wanted to go to was Oberlin, but I didn't want to let on that Oberlin was the only school I really wanted to go to. So yeah, I tried to not talk about that one too much because I thought my heart was going to break if I didn't actually get in. And through this journal, one of the people in my community that had started here at Western was my friend Jesse. And Jesse had gotten into Oberlin a couple months early and told me that the place that he was spending all of his time online was still on LiveJournal, but within a community for Oberlin students who were going to be starting that fall. And I was like, oh, I want to be an Oberlin student starting in the fall. So I joined that group, and when I got my acceptance letter for Oberlin, I was so thoroughly convinced, not just because I wanted to go there, but because the people were exactly what I wanted. I got to college, I kept this blog. Again, please don't try and find it, it's really embarrassing. But my blog went from being a place where I wrote about myself to sharing what my world really looked like. I was a photographer in college, and I'm still a photographer now. But what I started doing is every single day I would post one photograph of something that I had experienced or seen or was really exciting to me that day. I did this in part so I didn't have to call my parents every day. They knew I was still alive because I was still posting pictures. It was also really good for my camp friends to know that college life is good, and for the others of us in college, it made me feel really close to them still. And it just so happens that people who weren't in college but were thinking about college were actually reading this blog as well. Enter my friend Ginny. Ginny is 1 year younger than me, and she was at Vampy with me at the same time. She started looking at colleges and decided that because she knew a couple of people at Oberlin, she was going to apply there and was avidly following all of the photographs that I was posting every day because it looked like what college was going to feel like. So she applied, and she got in, which is great because she told me on Facebook that she got in, and she told me she got in by saying, I'm going to come visit you, which is always a great way to say something worked. So Ginny came to visit. I don't know if any of you have been to Ohio before, but the weather is schizophrenic. She joined us at, I think, 10 o'clock in the morning, and it was like 66 degrees and totally beautiful. And then within 6 hours, the temperature dropped 40 degrees, and it started sleeting. We also went to a really weird theater show. I don't remember the show. I do remember that I wasn't supposed to take pictures, but I did anyways because I really needed to include Ginny in the blog that had helped her decide that she wanted to apply to Oberlin. Ginny came, hooray. She graduated a year after me. She is, I believe right now, currently in Seattle, having a lovely, wonderful life. But there is something to this. The fact that one person decided to go to college in part because of this visual story that I was telling did not go unnoticed by other people. And actually, my current boss, Ben Jones, he's the vice president of communications at Oberlin College. When he was applying to work at Oberlin, he Googled Oberlin College blogs to see who was telling a story about Oberlin, and also to see what life was like on campus right then. He found my blog, filled with all of the embarrassing stories and also lots and lots of pictures, and asked me if I would blog for Oberlin. And I said, yes, of course, I love blogging. I'm already doing it. Perfect. The only problem is that I heard blog and for some reason thought words are blogs. Obviously inaccurate because my blog is a bunch of photographs. So I started blogging for Oberlin. I told lots and lots of stories. At this point, I'm like really trying to convince my brother that he wants to attend Oberlin. I don't think he let on that he actually really did want to go to Oberlin, but he tried to be a little bit catty about it. But it worked. He went to Oberlin. But it turns out that when Ben said blogging, what he meant was doing this. And I didn't get that memo. What ended up happening, though, is that we figured out a different way to work with those photographs. I actually have what you see right there in my hand as well. We took all of the photographs from my blog and organized them and categorized them into a giant visual calendar of what Oberlin can look like if you visit and live here. Every single photograph taken on Oberlin's campus, 95% of the photographs on here are mine, and the other 5% are people that were managing to be in places that I wasn't because I was still a student and I couldn't be everywhere all the time. This became Oberlin's view book for 3.5 years. The back has information about Oberlin, and the front has all these beautiful things that could actually happen to you if you choose to go to school there. This was kind of an eye-opening experience to me because up until this point, I thought photographs were just like this little personal thing that I was doing and that they only really lived online. Digital cameras, that's just how they operate at this point. But having this in my hand and hanging in my wall and knowing that it's hanging on the walls of many, many other Oberlin students made me realize that photographs and stories go far, far, far beyond where they initially start, which is very much the root of this talk of make content more social. If something is good, it will go somewhere else. A story doesn't really stay in one medium. It can go into many, many different forms. This is beautiful. If anyone wants to see it later, I'll have it with me. So this was an amazing experience. Like looking at all of my college life in one place is a little bit overwhelming, but that sort of storytelling is a very compelling way to get people to care about your brand because you care about the people behind the brand. At this point in time, I am still an Oberlin blogger, but the more important part about my job is that I went from being a hero myself to helping support the hero journey of other people. So I work with 25 amazing student bloggers. They are really cool. I'm going to leave this up here because the animated GIF is so pretty. We have 25 students who tell the story of their lives in a public space on the Oberlin blogs because it helps them understand where they are at and also hopefully show an aspirational spot where students might want to be in the future. I'm going to show a couple really cool examples, but keep in mind that the reason why they're up here is that the things that they're sharing are so unbelievably cool that you have to say, oh my gosh, must see more. Andreas is from California. I mentioned the weather in Ohio before. It was a major concern of his when he came to college. And instead of saying, the weather is a little bit weird here and I don't know what to do with it, he decided to share it through a calendar showing all of the weather over the course of a month, and also the fact that in one day he might have to change his clothes 4 times. You get it. You get it. I love Andreas's hand-drawn GIFs because it also showcases something that he really cares about, which is drawing and telling stories in digital form. Another one of our students, Charlotte, is really into graphic novels, and she's been imagining herself as the hero of her Oberlin story. She has been doing really interesting posts where she looks back at who she was as a little kid, looks at herself now in college, and then looks at where she might be in the future. And because summer camp is, again, the reason why I'm standing here today, I included a little slide of the camps that she went to as a kid. And the really cool thing about this is that she actually is a theater major now and is interested in being a playwright in the future. So she identified very early on that theater was a cool thing, and it probably had something to do with her camp experience. Another one of our students, Griff, who graduated this past year, actually took some time off as a student. And while that's not necessarily the normal journey for a college student, it was a huge part of his. And he decided to describe how he was going to leave Oberlin as a trampoline that kind of boomerangs him into a different place. This little net of people here is his community here on campus, and he knew that he would never go very far from it because he would always be connected with an Ethernet cable. For those of you who don't have a cord that connects to your computer or your phone, that's the thing that makes wireless internet things happen. Yeah. So this to me is my journey. The reason why I felt so connected to my community throughout time is that the web kept me connected to them. And also, luckily, the web also boosted me into the places that I really hoped to go in the future. Another really cool thing that's been happening is that I'm going to demonstrate with this student named Alex, is that in writing about your experience, you might actually see your own experience happening over and over again. So Alex is a junior. She is currently studying away in London. And this is the first time she's ever been abroad, as far as I know. And she wrote this post last year over the summer called 50 Pearls of Wisdom. And she actually wrote 2. So it's 50 Pearls of Wisdom, part 1 and 2. So 100 Pearls of Wisdom. That's a lot of wisdom. That's a lot of really awesome advice. But in looking back at the posts that she wrote last year, almost all of her advice is applicable to her adjusting to her new experience right now in London. And, so you don't get bored by words, I'm going to give you a llama. Ida, who graduated this past year, was a German and linguistics major. Linguistics was her independent major, so she created the whole thing all by herself, and she was the only person doing it. That said, she loves linguistics so much, and every time she talks about it, she imagines it as a llama. So whenever she got really excited about sharing something that she'd been learning in the classes she was doing with linguistics, she would always demonstrate it as a llama on her blog. This actually originated in one of her journals. She writes obsessively and started by the end of her blogging career to pull small pieces of writing and sketches and put them into her blog posts on our website. So all of these people are kind of sharing the stories of themselves kind of developing through time. I'm so lucky I get to work with these kids. They're the best people in the whole world. Not that you all aren't great, but I haven't worked with you yet. I also get to work with Oberlin students and alumni who are telling singular stories. So Oberlin as a place, much like any place, every single story kind of fits together into the bigger picture. Everyone is a little puzzle piece. While the blogs kind of show the development of one person over time, the stories that we tell are individual people telling one piece. So this is just a small example of the 300 stories that we have sharing small Oberlin experiences or things that Oberlin helped catalyze over time. Unless we forget where my job is now, I'm in a communications office. I help tell the stories of Oberlin as my job. The coolest thing to me is when we can use social media to listen and figure out what sorts of stories are relevant to our community today and how we can make those into bigger things that more people can know about. So I'm going to tell you about one of them right now. This is appropriate to this time period, but last March, we caught on Tumblr a photograph of a sign that was in our main square called Tappan Square. The sign said, Tappin' and Tappin'. What it was an explanation of a maple sap tapping project that was occurring in this main square for 3 weeks in March. The whole reason we found out about this is that the pun on the sign, Tappin' and Tappin', could not be passed up by the students. So they took a picture, they put it on Tumblr with just the caption, "This pun is too good." But I read into the sign, realized that there was a lot more going on here than just Tappin' and Tappin', the really cool pun, and that this was the origin of a new student project that was tapping for maple sap to turn into maple syrup. So we joined the students. We did a video interview with them. We took some really beautiful pictures, and we also wrote a story about them. And in kind of putting this story online, we also grabbed some pull quotes, and we also made some really cool animated GIFs. I love animated GIFs. I don't know if you could tell that yet. The really nice thing about this is that the story, each little individual piece tells the story, but all together they tell a bigger story. And for me, that's actually really important because when I tell a story on social media, I don't have the space to say everything all the time, but I can share all of these little pieces of this bigger story. So, you've seen my journey. My journey has kind of gone from me figuring out who I am to me helping other people figure out who they are. I don't really know where my journey goes after this. I really, really like helping people figure out where they can go, but I'm having a hard time figuring out where I can go. What I do know, though, is that from this stage back into the world and back to this stage, it's been an incredible journey so far. I'm really happy that I have gotten the opportunity to share it with you.